Hi there, Keith again from the Evangelical Free Church, Stony Stratford, and we're continuing in our series, the second one in the series we're having on Ecclesiastes, a book that looks at the big questions in life. Now, last week we saw that Solomon, probably one of the wisest guys there has ever been, highlighted two things as he looked at how he could apply his wisdom to finding meaning in life. And the first thing was this, that you can pursue a course of wisdom, but when you get close to your conclusion, you find out it turns out to be very little. He had this phrase, meaningless, chasing after wind. And in the Hebrew, the word there is hebel. It's a word for mist. It's something that sort of disappears as you get close to it. You can't grab onto it. And the second thing he noted was this, that the world is damaged. It's been damaged by mankind's sin. And he had this little phrase, which is a poetic way of showing this. What is twisted cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. In other words, the dilemma we find ourselves in, we can't get ourselves out of it. Now, I'm a great fan of Greek mythology, and I love the tale of Achilles. Achilles was a great warrior, and he'd been given sort of supernatural powers. He'd been dipped in the river Styx by his mother when he was a child, and this gave him, great strength, great agility, but he was invulnerable to every weapon. But he had a weak spot. His mother had held him by the heel. So one part of him wasn't invulnerable, and that led to his downfall in the end. But the point is this, Solomon will pursue a course of wisdom, and in the end he'll find a weak spot as he comes close to his conclusion. Solomon's basically, I think, after his trials and tribulations, looking at what wisdom can do or what it can't do. Last week, he really now thinks, well, we've got to take action. Let's try a few things and see if they work. Will they get us any closer to the meaning of life? So, first of all, he starts with pleasure. Now, he's got the means. He's a really rich guy, and he acquires a lot of stuff. He decides, first of all, he'd just enjoy life. And he says that he just basically set out to have a good time. He tried cheering himself with wine and embracing folly. But all the time, this isn't a case of someone just having a big party and getting smashed. All the time, his mind is still guiding him. Secondly, he thinks, well, I know, let's try the live hard, play hard philosophy. That would be good. Let's throw ourselves into work. So he does big building projects. He acquires a lot of stuff. Now, when I say he acquired a lot of stuff, Solomon acquired a lot in a lot of ways. We read in 1 Kings chapter 11 that he actually had over 700 wives and 300 concubines. Now, some of those were probably political marriages, but hey, the mind boggles, doesn't it? My wife Tracy's enough for me, and I mean that in the best possible sense. But this guy, he would have been the envy. He was, the babe magnet. He had pulling power, whatever you would like to call it. He would have been the Lads magazine, man of the year several times over. Each year it was given, who's won it? Solomon. Well, no surprises there. But in the end, all this pleasure, whether it be material or sensual or whatever, doesn't provide any answers. He says this is his summing up. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my work. And this was the reward for all my labour. Yet when I surveyed all my hands had done, and what I had toil to achieve. Everything was meaningless, a chasing after wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. You see, if he even starts to find some meaning, what happens? Well, it's this word here we have again, the Hebrew word hebel. It's like a mist. It disappears just when you're getting close to it. Just when something looks solid, you can't even grab onto it. And his conclusion is this: wisdom is good. Wisdom's great, but where does it get you? This is another conclusion he draws. I saw that wisdom is better than folly, just as light is better than darkness. The wise man has eyes in his head, while the fool walks in darkness. But I came to realize the same fate overtakes them both. I remember reading the 1001 Nights, the Arabian tale, and you have these people, they have fantastic adventures, and then it always ends the same way. But then the destroyer of earthly pleasures took them. Solomon's a realist. You can be wise, you can be poor and foolish or whatever, you can be rich, Same fate awaits everyone. Death makes philosophers of everyone, doesn't it? And I came across this anonymous quotation by a guy who was sitting on death row waiting to be executed. And it's this: you can be a king or a street cleaner, but everyone dances with the Grim Reaper. Okay, this might seem depressing, but sorry guys, girls, it's a fact of life, and it applies to me and it applies to you. So is there anything that can be of value? Well, actually, Solomon says there is. He goes on, he goes on to say that he hated life, but slowly he starts to see some meaning. And it's this: a man can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work. This too I see is from the hand of God, for without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? D.H. Lawrence made a great point in his poem, A Sane Revolution. And it's this: work can be fun and men can enjoy it, then it's not labour. And Solomon sees that. The fact that work and life can be enjoyed as something that God gives us. It's his common grace. There is some meaning, but he adds a cautionary note to this. Look to God, don't take it for granted. Verse 25, for without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? But then he says this: to the man who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after wind. In the end, we can't take it with us. Someone once said that they'd never seen a hearse with a trailer behind it. Far better to accept the enjoyment that God gives, to give him the right place, than to be a fool and to really just take these things for what they are in themselves, to enjoy them for what they are in themselves, and not look to God, the giver of all good things. You see, Solomon knows in the end it's a damaged world. As he said earlier, what is twisted cannot be straightened, what is lacking cannot be counted. And the Apostle Paul, when he was writing to the Roman church, says this: for creation was subject to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from bondage to decay and be brought into glorious freedom of the children of God. The world is damaged, but the Lord God has done something about it. Jesus, who said, "No one, he who has seen the Father has seen me said this, I am the way, the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Want to know God? Want to get the best things out of this world? Then give thanks for the enjoyment you do have in work and leisure. And look to Jesus. If Ecclesiastes is a book with a big question mark over it, Jesus provides the answer. He is the way and the truth and the life. And he is the way to God. I'm very happy if you would like me to. I've got free gospels I'd love to give you. But thank you for listening today. And we'll be back on the roller coaster ride of this quest for wisdom next week. Thanks again.